right. Hello and welcome to Conscious Mind Tripping. Tonight we're doing things a little different. I would love to introduce my guest for the evening is Mia Mormino, and we're going to talk about her and what she does in just a minute. But I wanted to say, I told you I was changing things up now that I'm 59 and I'm doing things different. So I thought she can't make it here on a Thursday night. I'm going to pre-tape and we're going to have some fun. So with that being said, I want to let you know why Miss Mormino is here with us. And I wanted to start out, I've been thinking about this all day today. Today was one of those days where I had like a due day and I could like literally kind of meditate during the day and figure out how I wanted to roll with this. And I was thinking, Nick and I both have mainstream metaphysics. And last night, your father was the guest on the mainstream metaphysics show. So if y'all missed that, he had this. So he had your father and he had this guy named Michael Chabot.
Mm-hmm. I did.
And it was a powerful show.
Oh,
I mean,
cool.
It was amazing.
Wait,
so
cool.
they had a really great time with it. But Carmen is Mia's dad. And then you have seen on my Conscious Mind Tripping before, Carmen's sister, Lola, who's going to come up in the conversation.
My sister.
Your sister, Lola. I'm telling you, I'm a little to ground and center myself. So Lola is Mia's sister. And just going to say the story is very, very interesting. So I wanted to start by saying, one of the things that I love about my job, and I know that Nick loves this too, we get to meet so many people. I mean, fascinating people. Like your whole family is fascinating.
Yeah, you really see all of us too.
We literally, it started with her mom, and then she brought you in and Lola, and then Carmen found his way over to Nick, and now Carmen and I have talked a couple of times. And the cool thing about our job is we get to meet you guys who are like fascinating people, and we get to literally like kind of dive into your life, and when you guys come in, we're talking about the stuff, and we get into why things are how they are. And to be clear, most people have stuff at this point. I mean, if you didn't have stuff before, you got stuff now. I mean, with everything we've all gone through recently, everybody has their stuff. So I just wanted to say that I really appreciate being such an important part of your lives and having that. It's, for me, it's a gift. When you guys do what you've been doing and you keep leveling up, for me, it's like it's just a blessing. And it's such an honor, to be honest. And so then I wanted to say, I know her extremely well, but I didn't know enough about her in her life as a musician, which we're going to get into in a minute. And I was watching a lot of your videos once we knew that I was going to be having you in here. And I was just looking at it, and I know you as I know you here. This is my office. This is where I see people. But it was such a pleasure to like watch you in your videos. And I've already seen, especially the newer ones, but some of the old ones in particular. And that's what I wanted to start with in our conversation. And so which one came first? Was it stuck, or was it washing the dishes?
Washing the dishes. Yeah.
So I wanted you to share a little bit with people, first off, about how you got into doing what you're doing. I know that you became a makeup artist. I didn't know that before. How did I not know that?
How did you not know that?
I don't know. It was like I was watching that interview with you, and I was like,
so interesting.
We talked about everything else.
Audrey was like, what deodorant I use. So like for me not to tell you that I like went to full on makeup school, that's very surprising.
I know.
That's weird. Well,
but that's why you do the amazing things you do with that. I mean, it was such a blessing to do that.
Oh my God. It like such a like everything happens for a reason kind of. And I just loved it. That was like the best time ever. And it's saved me so much money.
Right?
Because I don't have to pay for people to like do it for me. But
and you do all your own makeup?
Yeah. The most recent video from my song Building Blocks, I did not do that makeup. Like the zombie, like scary stuff. And then for my next video, I did like half of the makeup. I'm not very good with like special effects
Oh,
stuff.
I can
yet,
imagine, but
like the glam stuff, like I'm good at. Like I do like doing that.
we could spend the whole time just talking about how you did that thing where you're going into the earth, which by the way, I watched the video and I haven't commented yet because it was like, I have like things that I need to say and I didn't have the time to actually write it down. Such an incredible video. So if you haven't seen her most recent one, that is out and it's brilliant.
Thank you.
So let's start by giving us a little bit about who you are.
Okay. So this is like interesting because the way that I present myself with you is like me, but then the way I present myself on social media is very much me. But obviously, because of like the conditioning that social media has kind of like indirectly put people through, it's like always a little bit different. So I'm having this like weird, like, what's going on moment, but it's like good because I'm like, okay, I'll just be myself.
You just pretend like you're talking to me.
I just
skip the social media business. It's just me.
Only you. But yeah, so I'm a singer songwriter. I've been singing my whole life, but doing it professionally since I was like 18, 17. I wrote my first song at 16, but it came out when I was 18.
Well, which was the very first song?
Conflicted.
Okay.
Yeah, Conflicted was my very first song, and that was like that was just a really cool experience. It was very scary, but really cool, and that kind of just blossomed into like how much I love to do it now. But yeah, this is like weird. Like I don't know what to say. I like don't.
I'm gonna ask you questions, and rather than putting you on the spot, and I want everybody to be very clear about something. You're 21. And not only is she 21, but I mean, doing the first one when you were that age, when you watch her videos, I want you to be very clear. She does everything. She did the lyrics, she did the music for it, she did the idea of the whole thing. I mean, you have done it all, the makeup. You get the crew together, you literally will direct it. I mean, you just do it all at 21. I mean, who does that? And when you watch the videos, it's like, dang, it looks like it's, done by a whole crew of all these different people to do each one of those spots.
There definitely is a whole crew, and like, but I like find the people that I like want to work with.
But you're the director, you're the actress, you're the singer, you wrote it.
Yeah, that's true. I do a lot, but I do have a lot of amazing people that like produce the music for me and like with me, and then we'll edit the music videos and do all those special effects. Like that stuff I'm like so grateful for everyone that's been involved in my life for that. But like when it comes to like location scouting and writing the ideas and hiring the actors and wardrobe and figuring out my looks and all that stuff and writing the music and singing it, obviously that's all me.
Well, one of the things I wrote on here, I was like, I so appreciate so many things about you. And one of them was your authenticity, and the other part is, you talk about your crew, you've talked about people in session, and it's very evident how much you appreciate people.
I love my people.
I know you do.
I love my people and would go to the ends of the earth for them. Like that's not even an exaggeration. Like
I know. I know. And I love that about you and your honesty and how candid you are. Like a lot of people, I'm a therapist, and a lot of times people leave here, they don't talk to anybody. I mean, they don't bring it up. They don't want people to know they're going to a therapist. And when you did these songs that I was listening to that I want to talk about a little bit, there's a part of it where you literally in that one song, and I think it was Stuck, when you're talking about having that mental breakdown at that time, you were just very authentic with it. And it's like, some days are just bad days. And I think that's huge when you do something like that, because a lot of people are like, I don't want anybody to know I'm having a bad day.
Right. Which is like interesting because when I'm having a bad day, I don't want anyone to know, but it's like after the fact, I feel more comfortable sharing like, hey, this is like the stuff that I've been through.
Yeah.
But it's like interesting because while I'm going through it, no one knows. Like my darkest of darkest moments I've ever had in my entire life was like in April of this year. No one knew it, but I know I'll talk about it like in a little while because then I'll like fully be healed from it, But while I was going through that, if you like were to look on like my social media, I'm like posting pictures of me as like Rapunzel, and I'm like, oh my god, so beautiful, life is so great, when I'm like, I mean, you were with me during that whole time. So it's like, it's very interesting, like that, you know, balance of like being authentic, but then also still trying to like keep your privacy, I guess.
Right.
But eventually I say everything. So it's just a matter of time. I'm not closed off at all. I will talk about anything.
Well, another part of what I like about this is when you are sharing what you're about to be sharing, you're literally showing people, here was the dark night of the soul. And I mean, the dark night of the soul. And there's not a lot of people who go through the dark night of the soul as consciously as you have, and as gracefully, because in a lot of ways it was very graceful, but then to be able to show what you're about to show of what you gained from it,
right,
and the songs that you created about it. I mean, it was just like, that's such a cool thing to do. So I wanted to also, so when you wrote the one Stuck, you were really talking about your mental breakdown in that, you know, that moment in your life. And we've talked about that and being stuck and working through the stuck. And we understood at a point what the stuck was about. And I want to get to that a little bit later, but I also wanted to talk about, like many people, and I think this is another big thing for people to talk about, you've had a breakup. And you talk about the breakup in a few of your videos as well.
I've had many breakups. And they are all in my videos. So, but yes. But my first one was like brutal. That like set everything off.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about these, and now you're literally on the other side of these breakups, what's one thing that you would like to say to people is like, how did you work through that whole thing of what happened with the breakup? What were some of the tools that you really were able to use to make that better?
I mean, that's a really good question, because like, honestly, as you know, like there's still things from my first relationship that I like am actively working on / struggling with. But which there's like stuff I haven't told you, so I have to tell you about that. But this is not the time.
No.
This is not the time. But I think the biggest thing was just like speaking up about my feelings and not keeping everything in, because otherwise it would like have to come out somehow and at some point, which I'd usually take it out on myself. And that was like really destructive. So like consciously speaking up about it, that's I think what really like saved me. Like speaking up to my parents, speaking up to my sister, like accepting the fact that I like needed help and like seeking that, and just being as honest about like how dark my thoughts were, like just being like, all right, this is what it is, and I'm not going to try to be perfect, so like I need help, so let's do this, you know, instead of just being like, no, I'm fine, then just keep squishing it down, and then eventually you like lose your mind, which I did like a billion times.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the points of really like you moving forward, is when you were able to really bring in the family and really share just like everything.
Yeah.
And there were no secrets, and it was like they loved you anyway.
Yeah. I feel like from that point, obviously like there's still things about like speaking up in general that are super hard for me to do, just because of like fear of judgment or like fear of not being enough and all of that kind of stuff. But from that like actual conversation when we were all in here, I feel like it's pushed me, and it's like given me this sustained feeling of confidence when it comes to speaking up, even though it takes me a little while. Like I am doing it excuse me, more than I ever have, and it feels so good to like speak up. And speaking up doesn't mean like, can I like swear or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking up doesn't mean being a bitch. It just means like owning your word and knowing your worth, and not letting anyone like, you know, alter that, because no one has the power to alter that.
But you know what? People think that people do.
Of course, I think. I mean, I think it all the time. But then I'm
It's
like,
a
no,
process.
no,
Right.
I don't.
And then you catch yourself just like
Mhm.
that. Nope, no, 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 no. And that's, I think, a big part of it. If I were to say, especially, I've worked with quite a few women in your generation, you know,
Mhm.
your kind of age group, and across the board, there is a lack of communication, you
Mhm.
know, not really owning their word, not saying what they want to say. And unfortunately, when you're not doing that, you keep getting more of the same.
Exactly. And then you're like, well, why am I still in this situation, even though I've already worked it all out in my brain? It's because you haven't told anyone about it.
Right.
So how do you expect things to change if no one's on the same page with you?
Right.
You know, and like you're only going to keep attracting what it is that you are like actively seeking.
So I call that being on the loop. You know, we've talked about this, and I'm going to go into this part now. Well, first, before we even say that, I just want to say there's a couple more videos, or quite a few more videos that I really appreciated, but the ones in particular, and I'm going to share them tomorrow on my page before this show. So you'll hopefully been able to watch a few of them, if not all. There's another one called Little Girl. And that one, I think, as we talk a little bit more now, people are going to appreciate it. There's one called Games Over It. And then she just completed the last video for the 7 Deadly Sin singles. Singles. And I have to say, so brilliant. Thanks. Those, I mean, just the last one in particular was like mind bending.
Thank you.
Very clever. And then, you know, the falling in and all of it. So highly recommend watching those.
Thank you.
So I want to get into a little bit of how I operate and why it's important when we're looking at what you have worked with and worked through. So many of you know that I do a whole thing about a car analogy. So the car represents the body. The driver is the soul. There's 3 drivers. There's the little s in the back seat. That's the one that's angry or fearful or judgmental or anxious, all those stuff that many people feel. And then there's the present you, like there's you, the adult that's driving with me right now. I'm kind of in your passenger seat at the moment. And that's that part of us. We're being very present. We're owning our intentions. And, you know, we're doing the day-to-day stuff of life. And then there's another part of us that's the greater part of us. That's the third driver. That's our higher self. I'm not going to get into that at the moment because it's a long discussion. But when we were talking about you, so we brought your sister in here, Lola. So Lola and Mia and myself and your mom, we've all worked with this. So I want to share a little bit about you and how we came to where we're at the moment. So Mia was coming in and there was this part of it I kept missing. It's like, something's missing here. I'm not catching something. And I would be talking with her. And then this one day it was like, boom.
It was like literally a light bulb. It made it like my entire life made sense in like 2 seconds. And I was like, wow.
It was pretty amazing. And it was one of those like really special moments.
Yeah.
And it's the thing that led to the first song that you're going to be hearing in just a little bit. So in the conversation that I was having with her, you know, Mia is the older sister of Lola, and you were about 2.5 when she came in. All right. So Lola, that you met a few weeks ago, when she was born, had a very serious tumor on her back, around her, you know, lower back. And it was a stage 4 cancer. And it was like, she came into a massive amount of trauma. So here's little Mia, and she's 2.5. Lola comes in, and all of a sudden your world is turned upside down. And Lola, unfortunately, and you know what? Life is what it is. It is now, I mean, she's a super strong, super amazing. I mean, if you haven't watched the video with her, go back and watch that one because she is a powerhouse as well. So the two of you have learned individually what you've learned in moving through and understanding your life better. So when I was talking to Mia this one day, I was expressing to her that when Lola was born, it's like there's that first like kind of like a trauma in her life. And to be clear, trauma is like anything that is unlike love. And when you're having those really hard moments where everybody's got like this emergency to go through. So there's all these different forms of trauma. So when you're a little girl, Lola had to go to the hospital all the time. And Mia was telling me how she used to play with her knives and forks at the table if she didn't have all of her little people that she would bring with her. Like she would have these people, and you want to explain what you would do with them?
So like Lola was born with cancer, and like from that literal moment up until 2018, her entire life has been health issues and traumas, like in and out of the hospital all the time, staying at Children's Hospital for extended periods of time. Literally every hip surgery at 10, like literally any medical thing you could think of, Lola has had it and has gone through it, and she's 19. So that was like a big, huge majority of my childhood, so many other great things, but that was a constant like factor. And it was like,
it's a big deal.
How's Lola? Is she okay? Are you okay? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, I had these little people, and they're like these little figurines, and I literally still have them. They're in a bin in our attic because I'm like, I will never get rid of these. They're like, I cherish them.
Your little people.
They're so cute. They're like these little Disney like figurines, and I would play with them for hours and make up all these stories and all this like fun stuff. But when we'd be out to dinner and I didn't have my 200 people in front of me, I used forks and knives because I was just like, well, we are going to use what we have and we're going to use our silverware. So I would have like them be like the princess and the prince, or like the king and queen, and like just create these entire elaborate stories and be off in my own world. And like I remember doing that. Like I remember being in those worlds and like the stories that I would make up and like all this crazy stuff. So yeah, the whole like storytelling part of me like started really young, and I just always thought that it was just because it was something I liked to do and something I was good at, which is now why I'm really good at it now, like with my videos and like creating all these crazy concepts and like, just very not like not like average, because I don't think I'm like some like amazing thing, but the concepts that I come up with aren't really common, I feel like, in just
not at all
like what music stuff, like when you're like just starting out and stuff.
They're deep.
Yeah, they're like deeper and like very, very detail oriented and like fully different characters in each one. And yeah, so that's like about the people. I don't know if you want me to like tell about like the disassociating part.
I'm gonna get it started and then you're gonna go.
Okay.
So she's telling me all this stuff one day, and it was like, oh. And I showed her this part of the car analogy. And to be clear, many people do this, and you can do this on very many kinds of degrees. So I'm explaining to her one day how when she's driving, so here's a wall, and as we're driving, sometimes when we have trauma, it's like we're hitting a wall, and there is this moment where it's like, this doesn't feel good, and this is like I'm hitting a wall. And after a while, as we're driving the car, it gets more and more and more dented, and it gets harder and harder to be in that car. And so when you're a little girl and you've got all of this stuff that's going on around you, for you, it's like, oh, this car is like not rolling very well. And to be clear, I know your mom and dad really, really well. It's not that they were doing anything that was horrible or anything. It was just more that these were the circumstances of what was going on, and everybody just does the best that they can do in a moment like that. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately for you, it's like, all right, I got to be a good girl and I got to be doing the right thing. So I'm just going to play with this imaginary family. But on this one particular day, I realized it's like, as you were going forward, there was a part of it where this car wasn't any fun, and it was painful, and it was a you know, a lot of a challenge. So you took this other car, and in this car was the make-believe world. And in this car, you could have this great time, and you're in there, and the husbands and wives are those forks and knives, and you're just like, I don't need to be here with all the adult drama. I can just be in these little imaginary worlds. The challenge with that is when then you get to be 18, 20, 21, and it's like, something doesn't feel right. I'm not happy authentically. There's that part of me that's missing. And it's like, the part of you that's missing is that you're literally in two cars. So on this day, I think you really got it. And it was our job to integrate into the one car so that you're experiencing the fullness of life from all the different angles. So you tell your part of that.
Yeah. I just like, I love analogies, and I'm a very visual person. So like when you told me about the car analogy, I was like, oh, like, yeah, I'm there. Like I'm in the car. I know what the texture of the steering wheel is. Like I can literally place myself in that setting. But yeah, it was like, I kept coming in because just, I wasn't happy, like ever, except when I would like make up my music videos and like be these different people. And then it like hit me that the reason why, like, okay, when I was younger and I played with like the forks and knives as a kid, I was disassociating from my present life and making a life that was, like you said, like make believe and just happy and fun, because it was constantly, not constantly stressed, but like I didn't know how else to handle the trauma and like the things that were going on with Lola. That I was like, okay, this current situation is awful and I'm scared shitless. So let me make up a new world with little figurines. And I was like, okay, yeah, I did that as a kid. But then what like just blew my brains out was that as I've grown up, I literally am doing the same stuff. I'm doing the same exact stuff. I was a flight attendant for Lust, for like my 7 deadly sins. I was Rapunzel for another one. I was a boxer. I was what else was I? I was a freaking burlesque like heist woman. I was a zombie. Like I've made up all of these mini worlds and these mini scenarios for me to live in, because it's so much more fulfilling than my life presently. Even though my life right now and my life has always been so like, there's always so much good that you can find in anything. And like, I'm so blessed that I haven't had, you know, like a lot of other struggle. I mean, no, but I've had a lot of struggles. So what am I talking about? But yeah, like I'm not being ungrateful for my life, but it just was never satisfying enough and it never made me feel good. So I just continuously made up these new worlds, which I did with all of my sins, to live in. And I would spend months organizing and prepping and being in that mindset. And then when they would be over, I would be like this crashing depression, like what's it called? Like when you go down, like when you like relapse.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the right word, but like,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I would be so up high because I'm like living my best version of one of the characters in my life as a flight attendant in Mile High Romance. And then I would come crashing down and be like, I am so miserable. And then I'd be like, okay, let's focus on another world. Let's be Rapunzel and let's have a pretty braid and go in the forest and frolic around. And I'd be living my best life, and then I'd come crashing down. And when we figured that out, I was like, that is like the biggest light bulb I've ever experienced in my entire life.
That was a very big deal.
It was crazy. It was crazy that I'm literally doing the same stuff I did as a kid, but it's just a different like version, a different format, or like a different way of expressing it.
Want me to blow your mind a little further?
Sure.
I just got a little insight.
Go for it.
So the other part of that is you do be in this like world that you create, whatever that looks like when you're taking the separate car. But the other part of it is you don't, like, for instance, in the relationships that you picked, you pick this idea of what you thought it would be, and you want to be in this so much that you're not present to looking at the mess.
Everything else that's happening.
You're not present to looking at if somebody's being untruthful
Mhm.
or whatever. You're
Mhm.
more like, oh, we're just going to make this thing work. We're
Right.
going to do whatever. So now that you have integrated,
Mhm.
even the relationships are going to be so much more solid because
Mhm.
you're going to be able to be very present with them
Mhm.
and work through whatever those things are that come up. You'll see them clearly,
Exactly.
not through the eyes of this car.
Right. Or like the eyes of like putting someone on a pedestal and like literally worshiping them and doing anything and molding, like changing who I am to fit what I think they would like.
Right.
Like just being, even though it can be hard to like actually actively do that and like be yourself after you've always been what you thought other people wanted to be, just being mentally like aware and conscious of that idea where I'm like, okay, I can just be myself and people will like that.
Right.
And like, it's the truth and it's happening. I'm all relationships with my family, with friends. I'm like, wow, I don't have to like pretend that I'm someone else to be liked. Like I can really just be myself, and my relationships are so much better because I'm being myself. Like nothing else has changed except for that.
Right.
So it's just like, it's really cool. It's really nice.
I want to say this isn't as much you in your story, but sometimes people, because they take on, remember the other part of the analogies is there's a controller, and that's your belief system about who you think you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and what you've been kind of programmed to be. And then there's intention, attention, and perception. So when people have this idea, maybe it's not the trauma as much as it is their belief system about who they are.
Mm-hmm.
They think they're whatever. So they create this other car that they want to do because this isn't good enough. This isn't who this presentation, it's like it's flawed or it is not okay in some way, shape, or form, always with a lot of judgment attached to it. Mm-hmm. So again, once you integrate and you say, you know what, this car is great, and the car that I created over here is so magical, and it is like I have all of this gift. It is perfect, but they're both imperfectly perfect together. Mm-hmm. And really owning that. And then when I think another big part of it is like the whole thing with the car analogy, it's like, mm-hmm. and you have really done a good job with this. It's like, as you're driving along, when you do have that moment where you drive off the freeway and it's like, oh, I just went and did whatever. That's not really the greatest. It's like, all right, what did you learn? Mm-hmm. And then you realign and you get back in the one car and you move forward with that as your wisdom, mm-hmm. instead of the shame or blame or whatever anybody would do with it.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. And like the judgment attached to it. Usually, at least for me, like it's judgment of myself. Like like it's not like anyone is actively being like, shame on you, like you suck, how could you do that? It's me telling myself that. You can't like escape yourself. Exactly. But you can if you make a whole other world and you live in it for 2 months, which is what I do over and over and over again.
But not anymore.
But not anymore. Kind of.
No, it's fun to watch. It's really been fun to watch. It's been fun to watch all of you because you guys, like I said, Nick just had your dad on the show the other night. You all, I mean, it's like if you could say, here's how you do it. Here's how you do it. And there's been plenty of times when all of you are like, I really don't want to see those people.
I used to like dread coming in here and dread coming to see in the very beginning doing energy work with Nick. I was like, I'm just not gonna go. I'm not gonna go. My mom was like, you're going. And I was like, damn it. Okay. And I'm so thankful and happy that I did. But the hardest part is just like physically going. That's like to me, the most challenging part. Then the rest is like, okay, you made it this far. You can keep going with like whatever else comes your way.
And there were some times, and here's another part of it. And I think this is where people kind of get stuck as well. There were some times in session where you're just like, I just don't even know. Mm-hmm. And it would be like, let's just work through this. And you'd always be willing. Mm-hmm. I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that you didn't want to go there, but there was a part of you that was willing. And then when you actually get here, I think for everybody, it's super important to get everybody has something. Mm-hmm. Everybody has something. Mm-hmm. And when you get, if there's any part of you that's unhappy, or you're unhealthy, or there is a lack of success, abundance, or love. It's always an unconscious belief. And when you do what you all have done and you dump the trunk and you're looking at what the hell is this that's not me, it's what I've learned to do. It's the habit that I've gotten into, whatever that looks like. I think it's super important to get, as much as it's maybe a challenge to be here and go through it. Like I remember one day, particularly your mother, she did not want to be here at all. I don't even want to be here, but you're here and let's do this. And by the time she left, she was like a whole nother person. And that happens all the time. People show up. It's like, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about.
Oh, of course. That's happened like many times. I'm like, I just feel like I'm falling apart, which I was. But then when I leave, I'd be like, okay, I'm falling apart, but like with guidance. Like we're good. We can do this.
It's almost like, it's like you have to fall apart. The foundation has to break down of the old foundation so that you can build it back up again.
Exactly.
And that's what we did.
Exactly.
Are doing.
It's like breaking down the old walls, you know, so you can like learn from it and then build from there.
Yeah. So I'm going to say that at this point, the thing with the car analogy, you've gotten enough about it. I'm going to insert that video here.
I was a little kid, I would make believe that my forks and knives were husbands and wives, living so flawlessly. To me it was nothing less than stories in my head, but in some time I grew to find I wished I was them instead. My sister was the one that needed more love growing up, so I made all sorts of fun by myself when there was none. When trauma hits, I tend to turn to something better than healing the first wound. A brand new car's more appealing than yours that won't start. I live in two worlds that don't coexist. When one gets rough, I go where the glitter is. Bodies here, but my brain is someplace far away. Oh, now as a grown woman, I've noticed that those wounds have turned into the stories you view when I'm on stage glistening. Instead of being happy, I choose to make believe that I'm in the air or have long hair, living out fantasies. My sister was the one that needed more love growing up, so I made all sorts of fun by myself when there was none. When trauma hits, I tend to turn to something better than healing the first wound. My brand new car's more appealing than yours that won't start. Oh, I live in two worlds that don't coexist. When one gets rough, I go where the glitter is. Bodies here, but my brain is someplace far away. Oh, the end. Ta-da!
Oh my goodness.
That is my song.
That just makes me cry.
Oh,
it's so
thanks.
beautiful. It's so beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Of
Thank you.
course. No problem.
So many of us have gone through this past almost 2 years now. It's been a long time, and had similar experiences to you. And I want to talk about what you did and how you got through that time, because I can't even express to you. I've worked with a lot of clients who have gone through this moment of COVID, and they'll tell me what's going on, and they're not telling a lot of other people. So I think that unfortunately, many people don't really get how much of a toll this has taken on so many lives.
Mhm.
So when you're able to share your story, and literally that you're leading a very fulfilled life right now, that,
Mhm.
you know, you're doing so well in so many areas, I want you to, you know, share what you would like to about your journey of that.
Yeah, COVID was obviously like just a lot of new stuff for everyone.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of people have had very similar experiences with it and situations and, you know, reactions to it. But yeah, my mental health took a nosedive during COVID. it was like in the beginning I was like, okay, this is fine, we're gonna get through this, and then it got to a certain point where I just hit a wall. And it's interesting because during COVID, like, I was in a relationship. It's the same person that Showtime is about, so if you want to go listen, you get to go do that. But yeah, I was in a relationship at the same time, and having like all of my worth depend on this person, not by him, but like by me, like my choice of, you know, putting him up there and being so restricted in what you can and cannot do. I lost my mind because I was like, what is my purpose anymore? What is my purpose if I can't be with him physically and see him, and I can't go out and do any of the stuff that I always do? Like, I just felt like there was no point in me honestly continuing. And I've had a handful of like some pretty gnarly mental breakdowns, but this one, we called 911 and everything, because I wish I should have brought like the picture that I drew, because I like to draw, and I like to draw like my feelings and my emotions. But I was laying on my bedroom floor, and I literally was like, I felt like I was sinking into the ground, like that, like horizontally, like everything was just being sucked down into the floor. And then I just, like, you know, absolutely freaked out. So then we had to, like, you know, get some more help. But that was a huge eye-opening moment, because not only did it scare the absolute everything out of me, but like the way that it affected like my family, like it was so bad, and it was so scary. And like after that, I like made a pact with myself, honestly, after seeing how that like affected my mom. I was like, I will never ever allow myself to get to the point of like wanting to like take my own life ever again, because it is like, if I'm not going to do it for me, I'm going to do it for her and my sister and my dad, of course. But like, she's a strong person always. And so when I see her upset, I'm like, okay, she's like, you know, she's really upset right now. And so the way that it affected her, I was like, I could never do that to her. I could never, ever do that to her. Because even what I did just experience, that was like enough for me to promise myself and to her. I was like, you never have to worry about that ever again. And yeah. I haven't had a thought like that since. I've done other things, but that exact like mindset of being like, this is so bad that I just would rather not do it at all, I've not had that since then.
That's a huge test.
All over the place. Sorry.
No, it's not all over the place at all. I got to say, there's a lot of people who have been in the dark night I call it the dark night of the soul. Mm-hmm. It's like you are the dark side of the moon, if you know that sun analogy that I do. And it's a hard place to be. And I've actually worked with many people who have been in that place, and very grateful to say, here you are. You know, and you're on the other side of that. Mm-hmm. And when you go through the dark night of the soul, and I mean, I have worked with people, it's like, I mean, they're calling me up and saying they're in there, mm-hmm. they're ready, mm-hmm. they're just about to do it. And mm-hmm. we have this, you know, come to Jesus moment, mm-hmm. I call it. And the good part of it is when you're able to go through that, and I mean through it, because mm-hmm. it is a journey. Mm-hmm. And now you get to this place there's a part of it where you don't do it for whatever, but there's a part of you now that is living a life that's much more powerful than most people will live, because you've seen that and you've owned your resilience. Resilience is one of those key words that when I get a new client, I'll be like, look this word up. It's like, it's an important word. But when you're going through that dark night of the soul and you're owning that resilience and that wisdom that you now own, you never will want to go through it. There's not that same, you're not in the same headspace at all.
Like, you have moments, of course, where like you feel like everything sucks, because sometimes it does.
Yeah.
But it just, my brain just does not even entertain the idea for a split second of going that far into it.
Right.
Like that's like the best part, I feel like, of going through those moments, is knowing like, okay, that's how that feels, and I never want to feel that way again. So now I'm going to do everything in my power to learn and like work from it, sort of thing.
Well, the other part of it is, if I had my theory of mind, when you're in that kind of a dark night of the soul, there's a strong belief. There's a strong belief that is our work, where we're finding those beliefs, and you understand why it is that your mind will go there, that our habits are what they are, and what we actually are in the loop about. So when you go through that never comes up again. There's going to be other stuff that come up. I mean, for all of us right now, I think there is a lot that we're all somewhat unsure of, confused about, anxious about, worried about. There's all these things, but you're coming from a point of being integrated in your car and having the wisdom. It's like you've driven over a lot of the construction sites, of the zones that you need to get through. And now it's like, there's not so many more that are as hard to deal with, because you've been there, done that.
Exactly. Like, I'm like, it cannot get worse than it has been for myself personally. External things, yes, like that kind of stuff can happen, but for me, there's no way you can go lower than rock bottom. Right. So now that I know where my rock bottom is, and I've been there multiple times, I'm like, okay, anything else, like, I can do. Like, right. I can do this, right. Especially because if I'm here, like, physically right now, and I worked through those times where I didn't want to be, I can literally do anything I like set my mind to. And that's like the most inspiring part of all of it.
Well, I think it's inspiring that you're going to be able to, for your life, be able to assist people with your music, with your lyrics, with that part of you where, you'll be able to, people through music, that is one of the powerful modalities for healing. And it doesn't even have to be with lyrics. I mean, there's plenty of music that feeds my soul. And when you're adding those lyrics to it and you're telling your stories, it's a powerful business. It's really amazing to do that. And that is a gift that you bring to the world. So kudos.
Thanks.
Sometimes we look at it and it's like, why am I here? What am I doing on this planet? What is my thing? And, you and your sister, your father and your mother as well. It's like you all are very much about being of service in the world, in whatever way that you're of service, like right. Lola with her, what she does. Well, I don't need to go into the details, but I think for a lot of us, when you find that place where it's like, here's where I own my gift, like you created that gift as a little girl with your little people, and then you bring that forward with all the different versions of it, that's a blessing to the world.
Thank you. I'm very thankful that I have music as an outlet for myself. Yes, of course, but like for other people too, because music doesn't sound as scary as therapy does, right? To like, I feel like majority of people, like but I don't know, like whenever I say or tell people that like I go to therapy, they're like, oh, like I'm so sorry, and I'm like, for what? Like I'm like living at my highest being right now, like I'm thriving. Like no, it's like not an I'm sorry, it's like where do I sign up kind of thing. Like, that's how I would look at it. So but when you say like, oh, if I like were to tell someone, oh, like here, go to an hour of therapy or listen to an hour of music, they're going to pick music. So I'm just glad that like I've started this young with like self-help and all of that, which I like, you know, thank so much for my like mom for getting me into that and like starting me and my sister young, that I can like drop these little seeds of like therapy advice and like things that I've learned, but in music. So it's like, it's helpful, you know, it's not just like music. I mean, whatever, music is helpful in your own way, however you take it. But like my lyrics and stuff, like everything that I write is a small product of like what we talk about in here, you know? So it's just cool that I'm like.
So with that being said, you just opened up a good intro for the second song that she's going to be singing for you.
Oh yeah.
Right? So it's the Party Buzz song.
Yeah, it's actually just a TikTok that I have.
I love that TikTok. It was perfect. It's really fun. Especially the end of it, what you did.
I know, it is really fun.
So I want to explain the Party Buzz a little bit. Maybe you want to help me.
Oh, okay. For everyone watching this right now, if you're going to take anything away from this like thing, listen, get a pen and paper and write this down, because it changed my life and it changed my entire dating life, and so do it.
Actually, it did change your entire dating life. It changed
literally my entire life.
Isn't that funny?
It's amazing. And like relationships are so difficult sometimes, and they have always been so difficult for me, and like that doesn't mean they won't be in the future, but like just this whole concept and this whole visual, I was like, wow.
So you know that there's the car analogy. All right. So when my single people come in, I tell them that you're going to be creating, instead of a car, you're going to be creating a party bus. And so the party bus, you have to have your intention set, because as much as there's belief systems, there's also the controllers of your life. Intention is you're setting the map. Like, here's where I'm going. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm creating. And then attention, you have to keep your attention on the intention, and then perception. So when you're having a party buzz, you got to know the intention. So when you're creating that perfect partner for you, there's a part of it, like for me, when I learned all of this many years ago, because I had been in so many crazy dysfunctional relationships, it was like, all right, I got to have my intention set. So my intention was he had to have character, morals, integrity, a passion for what he does, the ability to communicate, the ability to love and be loved. He had to be interesting and interested. A lot of people are interesting, and there's quite a few that don't seem to be so interested. So if they're not asking you about you, they're out of the bus. And then mine was more clever, witty, smart, financially secure, amusing. I like to be laughing. Like we just had a good laugh before we came here this evening. So when you have the party buzz, you're setting your intention. This is what I am creating. Now, two things about that. You're not choosing that you're going to have a guy that's like 6'3" and brown hair, green eyes, or you're going to have a woman that's 5'4" and she's whatever, this Latina fireball. You know, you're just saying, I want, these are the characters. This is what I'm going for. Now, another part about the party buzz is you got to be in that driver's seat and you got to look in the rear view mirror. Is that who you are? Like, for instance, when I'm making my list, there was a part of it is like, I'm not going to lie anymore, because integrity was at the top of the list. Not that I was a massive liar anyway, but, you know, it was like, I need to own my word. So it gives you the opportunity to look at yourself. Are you what you're attracting? You know, like I've had many people, oh yeah. And they're like, well, I'm not rich, but I really want somebody who is rich. Well, that's not, you know, own that you are rich and that you have every ability to create a lot of success and abundance. You know, there's all these things that gives you an opportunity to look at what are the things that are in my belief system that I need to make an alteration with so that I can be that I'm looking for. Okay. So the other part about the party bus is you're in the front seat and we have a little open front seat over here.
No one else is in the other one. No one else is passenger.
Nobody gets to be in the passenger seat until they earn that spot. Because a lot of times, I mean, I can't even express to you in all the years I've been doing this, woman comes in and she just meets a guy and is like, he's wonderful. It's like, how do you know? Oh, trust me, he's wonderful. It's like, Oh,
Being
but
wonderful in bed is not wonderful as a human being.
it's like he just
Come on.
lied to you. I know it doesn't matter because he's wonderful.
Mhm.
And so part of the rules of the bus are you do not sleep with them for minimum 6 to 8 weeks. All right.
So they're gonna say 6 to 8 days, and I was like, that's not the number you told me. I was like, we need to talk.
No, 6 to 8 weeks. That way you're learning who they are, you're getting to know each other. And to be clear, once you do it, it's done. There's that really great thing about anticipation and kissing and waiting to kiss them again and, imagining and having that whole buildup to a special moment. And also, once you actually have that intimacy and you have become one with another person, there's an energetic that's attached to it.
You're gonna like take on their shit.
Right. And
Whether
you
you like it or
literally
not.
can. And
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch around that. So it's super important to honor the rules of the road. So that as you're driving, like I always say, we're here in Los Angeles and your great partner is in San Francisco. So you're driving up the freeway and you're knowing I'm creating my list. He's going to be fabulous. He's going to be fantastic. He's all these things. Or if you're a guy, it's like, she's going to be whatever. And you're knowing this is the partner that I'm meeting by the time I get to San Francisco. So along the way, as you're driving, there'll be somebody cute and you're like, hey, you're cute. Get your ass in the back of the bus. You throw him in the back of the bus. Here's another one. He's cute. Put him in the back of the bus. All these people. And the first time they lie to you, get your ass out of the bus. If they start talking badly about their ex, get out of the bus. If they start doing anything that's not on your list, it's like, obviously you're not in the right bus. You need to go and find another bus.
Exactly.
So there's all this. And then by the time you hit San Francisco, you know who's going to be in that passenger seat. And I think it has worked for you.
It has worked wonderfully for me to the point where, so I love to like make things on like Photoshop and like Canva and like just graphic stuff. If someone just like saw this without having any context, it'd be like, this girl is a psychopath. But I promise I'm not. Like everything I'm doing is like whatever. But I made you a party bus. Do you remember when I got the pictures of all the people that I was
yes, you did.
to?
Yes.
I put their name, their age, a little brief summary about them, a photo where they were like standing in the party bus. And I said Mia's party bus and I sent you a picture of it.
That was perfect.
It was so fun. And I was like, this is so cool. But no one was in the front seat. I was still getting to know like everyone. And it was just fun because like I've never really like dated like that, like not like openly dated, but just like gone on dates with multiple people, and like not trying to find my husband like in the process, like this is the first time where I'm like, oh wow, like I do not need to find the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with right now, because that's what I have always tried to do. So like going on a bunch of different dates with a bunch of different people was so fascinating and so eye-opening, because I really learned like more precisely, okay, this is what I like and this is what I don't like, but I don't have to go through a whole year-long relationship to figure that out anymore.
Right.
Like when I was younger, yeah, because I didn't know any better and I didn't know anything really about relationships and all of that. But now, because I've had a lot of practice like with that and with you, I can sit through one dinner and be like, nope,
you're out.
You're out. Sorry, thank you for your time, but this is not going to work. I can already
check out the
it.
bus right behind me. She's scared.
Exactly. So yeah, that analogy like really, really worked for me. And like, just intimacy is like a very special, important thing to me. And it's, honestly quite, maybe we'll not get into that, whatever. It's hard for me, just like the whole idea of it. So having that as like okay, like I don't need to do this to like prove I'm enough to someone was just like music to my ears. I was like, I'll do it for 6 months. You tell me how long I shouldn't have to sleep with them. I won't do it. I promise I'm good. So it's a cool like concept.
It truly is. And when you when you're with somebody for a period of time and those feelings grow
Mhm.
and you keep having that feeling of safety with them
Exactly.
and you're trusting them and you're watching
Mhm.
and you know what, you're staying in the buzz. You haven't been lying. You've been doing all this stuff. You
Right.
seem to really appreciate me. The other part about them being in the buzz, you pay attention to what they say,
Mhm.
but more importantly, you pay attention to what they do.
Mhm.
I can't even express again how many people come to me, men and women. It's like, are you noticing that they're saying all this, but they're not really doing?
Mhm.
And, oh, no, they're wonderful. Not really.
Like on paper, maybe.
On
but
paper.
Like everything else is not
when they
working.
talk to you like that, that's not really in alignment, or when they do these kind of things. But I think there's a big part of it where many of us haven't been taught how to be in a relationship.
Mm-mm.
So like you had your parents who they're still together,
Mhm.
and literally they just had an anniversary, and you two created this amazing, oh my goodness,
They did.
they had us do the renewing of the vows and surprised the parents, but then they hired a Cinderella coach to show up and surprise their parents. And it was like Prince Charming took Cinderella down
Really?
Thousand Oaks Boulevard, and it was
Yes.
like amazing. So even when you have like a great example in a lot of ways, there's still these beliefs that come in, or these experiences that we have very early on that can, in the perception of them, kind of change what we go for, or what
Mhm.
we'll accept, or what we
Mhm.
will, like what we'll do.
Right.
So when you're able to really recognize that and you changed a lot of that up, I mean, you're doing really great now.
Thank you. It's really cool. It's it's just a good feeling to like be able to be like have relationships with people where I'm like good on my own,
Mhm.
and like learned. It's not like I know everything. Oh, we paused because of poor connection. Whatever. Yeah, not that I know everything or whatever, but it's just like having that knowledge and that experience and like learning from my parents and like seeing what works and what doesn't work, because like every couple and every relationship there's going to be issues. So just seeing that and then like being able to figure out how it is that it makes me feel is just really helpful for like my future and like my my relationships.
Right.
Cool.
I think there's another part of it too, where you really made it safe to communicate, that whole constructive communication.
Yeah. I'm still working on that. Like that's definitely, I still have like some like fears around just like communication, especially with like people I'm like dating or with, or just anyone frankly in my life. But I've been able to like practice it a lot recently, like within the past 4 months or whatever. So like I was saying a little bit earlier, like just having that confidence and like that experience of doing it, it's been able to like push me to continue to do it, because nothing bad has come out of me speaking up.
Right.
Might like in the moment be uncomfortable, but in the long run I'm like, wow, I'm not like pushing down all of my feelings that I've had for the past 6 years of knowing this person, or
Right.
whatever the case may be. So it's cool.
I want to state the other obvious thing. It's like, you're 21. It's like I'm looking at her at 21 and who I was at 21, and it's like a world of difference. And I think it's important to get, you're 21. This is that time at anywhere from say 15 to 25. There's that part where you're figuring out who you like, who you are, and how to communicate with another person, and what's okay, what's not okay, and you're figuring out all of that stuff. And let's just say, I don't know that there's been that many manuals that your generation has been reading. And then you also, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again, there's a lot of manipulation that you'll watch on TV, like just watching Gossip Girl. Oh, is that how we do it? And the cutthroat and the backstabbing and the stuff is like, oh, that's normal.
Right.
It's actually not normal.
Right.
And a lot of the other, like there's movies, there's things, and when we go, or
social media
and all of that. So you're learning in a sort of manipulated way rather than owning your authentic ability to do the intention part, attention, perception, in that constructive communication. So, it's a whole process of all this, but when you're doing what you're doing at 21, you're owning the process.
Thank you.
Kudos.
Thanks.
So before our time runs out here, we're going to put that song in right now, the fabulous Party Bus song. Thank you so much. I love that.
Of course, me too. I gotta record it and actually finish it.
That's coming up. That'll be coming up soon, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then we'll be back on the other side to say goodbye.
Yeah.
So my girlfriends are always like, Mia, I need to get over my ex, but I don't want to jump into a relationship. I want to date around, but I don't want to sleep around. So to that, this is what I say. I don't want to cause no problems, but my ladies, here's some insight. I figured out the trick of true love, and I swear it changed my whole life. We'll call it your own party bus. Each week you add a few more plus ones, but none of them sit in the front. That spot is hard for your own self-love. Some think we're foolish, so we gotta spell it out. If they pull any bullshit, we'll kick them out. Don't go acting stupid, don't let him go downtown. I know you can do this, just sing out loud. Fuck it.
Important movie here. Then you'll have sung the movie here. And all of you on Instagram
No,
are
they've
like,
already seen it.
there they go.
They're like, what are they talking about?
But you didn't see it this version. So we're back.
We're back.
And I just want to say thank you so much.
Of course. Thank
It
you
has
for
been
having me.
awesome having you here.
Yay.
It's been awesome getting to know you.
Thanks.
You and your sister and your mom and your dad.
Thank you.
I mean, I just adore you all, and I'm so grateful. And I know Nick is as well. We truly appreciate you all. If we were to say those are the kind of clients that we want, it's like you guys, you keep doing it, you keep owning it, and it's such a pleasure to watch you guys own your consciousness like that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and for helping all of us, but helping me through all of my awful life moments and finding the good in them, and being able to grow from it. I don't know what I would do without you. I have no idea.
Well, it is totally my pleasure, and I'm just so extremely grateful to have you on here.
Thank you.
So we'll have you back again soon.
Oh, please, I would love to.
And for everybody there, I know tonight wasn't live. Thank you for being with me here and with Mia. Can you tell them how to get a hold of you and how to watch your videos?
Yeah, so you can listen to all of my music on any platform, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, wherever you listen to your music, you can find my music. My music videos are on YouTube, and it's just all under my name, which is Mia Mormino, which is MIA, and then MORMINO. And yeah, all my social media is Mia Mormino. So
get over to Instagram and follow her, and you can see all the new stuff that she's going to have coming up. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing all of you on Mainstream Metaphysics with Nick next Tuesday night. And much love to everyone. And I'll catch you later. Because I hit them. Sometimes it's hard to find the mouse. Good night, everyone. Bye.